Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for your time and for your interest in joining to our research report launch with Rainbow Afghanistan with financial support of Outright International. Before starting our launch, I would like to start from introducing myself and then I ask you for introducing yourself. Feel free to write in the chat if you're not able to open your mic. And I would like to mention we are recording this video and some part of this research launch might be posted on our social media. So I ask your permission. Please let me know if you're not okay with that. Feel free to reach out. I'm Basira Paigam, working as Executive Director with Rainbow Afghanistan and also as an independent researcher and consultant. My recent research with the support of Rainbow Afghanistan and financial support of Outright International was about Bacha Bazi culture and LGBTQ plus people in Afghanistan, impacts and coping mechanisms as my thesis for the AME and also as a research for our community. And today I'm very honored and pleasure have this lunch with amazing participation of you and special thanks to Andre for your time and for joining to this research lunch. I would pass the mic to Andre. Would you please introduce yourself for our friends here? Thank you.
Hi, good morning from New York City. I imagine it's the afternoon or the evening for some of you, but my name is Andre Duplessis. My pronouns are he, him. I'm South African originally, but I'm also British, Swiss, and soon to be American. I've lived all over the world. I live here in New York, as I said. I work for Outright International. I'm the UN Program Director, having done advocacy at the United Nations in Geneva on LGBTIQ issues for many years. And then when I moved to New York, I'm continuing that work here with Outright International. So great to meet you all today. Is that the level you want of introduction right now, Basira?
Thank you very much. We would love to hear more if you want, but no pressure.
Sure, because I know you've asked me to give some opening remarks. Would you like me to do that now?
What do you think if we ask our friends if they are interested to introduce themselves, if they're
Perfect.
okay? Yeah. And then we will go forward the introductory part, of course. Yeah. Their friends, their colleagues, would you like to introduce yourself or have any introductory like mentions?
Hello, everyone. My name is Amira Brahimi. I'm based in Pakistan, and I'm working as a communication and reporting officer with Rainbow Afghanistan. And I'm really glad to see all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mahbooba Jan.
Hi, I think I briefly did introduce myself, but once again, yeah, my name is Mahbooba Faiz. I am based in Ireland. I'm a lawyer by profession and a women's rights activist. I am campaigning here in Ireland as part of, the global End Gender Apartheid campaign for the recognition of gender apartheid as an international law. I work with a law firm here in Cork. I have found an organization called Ocean, focusing on promoting human rights and women's rights. Yeah, it is nice to meet you all here. It's nice to virtually meet you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mahbooba Jan. It's a pleasure to have you here. Would you like to go ahead with introducing Robin, if you don't mind? I'm asking again because now we are recording, so that's why, if you're okay with that. We don't have Robin.
I think you're on
Okay.
mute, Robin.
Yes, you're mute, Robin. Oh, it's okay. So, we would like to ask from our friends, Hafiz. Hafiz, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, can you hear me, voice?
Yes, you're coming through. Yeah.
Hello,
Yes, we have your voice, Hafiz.
my
If
voice?
you have,
Okay, I'm Hafiz. Thank you so much for inviting us here.
yes, we have your voice, Hafiz. If
Hello.
I think your mic
Uh,
have an issue, Hafiz. I think your mic have an issue. I'm really sorry because it's reflecting back the voice. If you don't mind, would you please write to the chat? And if you're okay, so I will uh, read that to our colleagues and friends. Rahel, would you like to introduce yourself or?
Okay. Do you have my voice?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I don't know if it's night there or it's morning. Good morning or good evening, and also good afternoon. And I hope you're all of you doing well. I'm Rahil. Actually, it's my nickname. And I live in Kabul, Afghanistan. And also, I'm a member of Rainbow Afghanistan. And I'm glad to be here with you guys to learn more about LGBTQ sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for being here. So we will start our session now. If you have any comment or if you would like to go ahead with sharing your ideas, including introduction of yourself, please feel free to write in the chat. We will go ahead based our agenda. I would like to ask Andrew to go ahead with our first part of our agenda, which is sharing an introductory information about outright supports to LGBT people around the world, especially their support to Afghanistan queer community. Thank you.
We all spend half our lives looking for that unmute button on our microphone. Really, it's an honor to be here today. I introduced myself earlier. I have got some prepared remarks, which I'm going to read out. Basira gave me 20 minutes, but I'm not going to take 20 minutes, but I will talk a little bit. Listen, Basira is going to present her research, and I think that this is really an amazing moment. I think the evidentiary record is something that we will all need to be using. Certainly we ourselves at Outright will be using it. And before she does that, I want to kind of give something about why this work exists at all and why we at Outright are actually proud to have played a very small part in making it possible. A few years ago, Basira came to New York, here on the very street that I'm on right now, as one of our Rights and Religion Fellows. She met diplomats, she met UN officials, she saw how the machinery of international accountability works, its possibilities, and also the absolute silence sometimes of the United Nations. And I think, Basira, you went home with a clearer sense of what was missing at the international level, which is like a rigorous, survivor-centered, LGBTIQ-led account of Afghan LGBTIQ and also Bacha Bazi persecution, how they are different and connected, and what the international community can really needs to understand before it can do anything, and then when it understands, maybe what it can do. And this research, I think it's timely in that sense. We did support it with a very small grant, and then Basira, you did all the rest. You navigated enormous, and reading that research, I can see it was a personal, emotional challenge to you going through that, and the huge cost that other people of going through stories of trauma and abuse that they shared with you. The way that people have given that to kind of land into research that can actually like highlight the visibility of what's happened. You have intellectual precision, you've taken ethical care, and you have a deep humanity in what you've put into this research. We're going to do what we can with this research. So let me just talk a little bit about it in the international context, because I think I do want to speak a little bit about what this kind of research means, not just for Afghanistan, but actually in global human rights, particularly in this kind of 2025, 2026 moment, what's happening globally into which it lands. So we are sadly living through a period of accelerating rollback on human rights. Yes, that happens in authoritarian states, of which we will, of course, place Afghanistan in, but actually it's taking place in the architecture of international human rights protection itself, even at the UN. The current US administration is leading coordinated efforts at the United Nations to delegitimize any gender-based frameworks entirely. They're systematically trying to remove the word gender from UN resolutions and outcome documents. They're framing a gender analysis as ideological and as somehow a threat that has to be resisted rather than actually a tool to be applied to help all people. And it's not just the US. We know that the US has willing partners in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the OIC, and also the Holy See, the observer state at the UN, which both have their own very long-standing projects of particularly excluding sexual orientation and gender identity, but also any kind of deeper gender analysis from human rights discussions. And I think that's while we're used to seeing sometimes the conservative or deeply politicized countries at the extremes doing this, what we see is these states leading now middle grounds and pressuring middle grounds, especially more moderate states in sub-Saharan Africa, across Asia and the Pacific and in the Caribbean. They're being forced to join them in their anti-gender discussion. So what we really see is a pincer movement squeezing the space on LGBTIQ people and gender minorities. In fact, for anyone whose existence is challenged or challenges binary, patriarchal, heteronormative frameworks. And this rollback is being conducted, however, in part, well, mainly, in fact, through the bodies of LGBTIQ people, perhaps especially transgender people at the moment. And the narrative that LGBTIQ human rights are somehow in opposition to the rights of cisgender women or children or the population at large, and that gender ideology threatens women's spaces, children's safety, religious freedom. That's being deployed globally, and we see that across governments and movements. You all know this. It's causing real harm to real people. So Basira, your research arrives in this context, and actually it speaks directly to it, because what it shows to us, it shows that in Afghanistan, the actual enemies of LGBTIQ people are the powerful men who are exploiting boys for sexual gratification and display, the warlords, the police commanders. Those are the ones, they're the defenders of the patriarchal system that enforce these gender roles at the cost of everybody who falls outside them. And that includes, yes, LGBTIQ people, but also cisgender women, girls, gay men, straight men, everybody suffers in that system. And the very same system that exploits boys in Bacha Bazi is the very same system that criminalizes and persecutes transgender women, even though I know that your research is so good at making that distinction. They are interlinked in a very complex way. So this is something that I want to talk a little bit about, and I think that your research does this so well, and you're going to talk more about this. You talk about conflation and the harm that comes from conflation, and we'll see in the report, of course, that we've seen it, that LGBTIQ people are routinely accused of being Bacha Baz, of being the perpetrators of this exploitation, or somehow by their very nature, very willing participants in this. And that's not an incidental misunderstanding. It's a real deliberate and functional conflation that actually serves the interests of the people who are doing the abusing. And I think you know that and you see that, and we see that in the report. And what it does is it redirects the moral outrage away from those perpetrators, and it shifts it onto the victims. And it gives the state a justification for persecuting LGBTIQ people, but doing that under the banner of child protection. And guess what? This pattern isn't only happening in Afghanistan. It's one of the oldest weapons that's deployed against us as LGBTIQ people globally. And it's being sharpened and deployed at scale right now. So just to zoom out again, so in Uganda, we have the Anti-Homosexuality Act, which now has provisions for the death penalty. And that was justified explicitly through the language of protecting children from recruitment and abuse by homosexuals. And then conflated it immediately so that actually anybody who's in a consensual same-sex relationship repeatedly can also receive the death penalty. In the United States and across Europe, we see legislation targeting drag performances or gender-affirming care or LGBTI inclusive curricula as somehow inherently dangerous to children. And so when we see things like the child sexual abuse scandal within the Catholic Church, the institutional response, however, becomes that this is a problem of homosexuality in the priesthood. So it scapegoats gay men there rather than actually going to the actual issue of power and control within that structure there. So we have different contexts, we have different centuries, we have the same logic going on and on and on in multiple different places. And I'm not saying that everything is identical, but I'm saying that there is something familiar here. And I think that you, Basira, you experienced that in the Rights and Religion Fellowship when you worked with activists from other regions around the world, and you saw that happening. So we have a collective responsibility, I think, to appropriately work out how we stop the conflation and at the same time have to highlight how these two do potentially link a little bit. And I'd love to hear more from you on what you think is the appropriate way to do that. I will turn here to what the international community has done for LGBTIQ Afghanis and what it has totally failed to do as well. And both on Bacha Bazi and on LGBTIQ. So for Bacha Bazi, certainly this is not invisible in the UN system. You know, it's been named many times the Secretary General's annual report on children in armed conflict. And it's verified as a grave violation in the Security Council. The Security Council's Working Group on Children in Armed Conflict, they've expressed grave concern against Bacha Bazi. UNAMA, of course, has documented and condemned it. The Special Rapporteur in Afghanistan last year named it in his report. So we've seen it, it's been named, it's been condemned. And again, this is one of those interesting things, of course, in all of those references, perhaps appropriately, it's been framed exclusively as a child protection issue, thank goodness. But are we missing something by also seeing what is the compounded vulnerability of LGBTIQ people that they experience in a Bacha Bazi exploitation system, and that the way that they end up being criminalized for the very identities that may actually make them a more likely target of being recruited into Bacha Bazi or taken into Bacha Bazi. So I think we should give some thought of how do we address this balance. We've seen the international legal landscape shifting. Of course, the ICC arrest warrants for Taliban leaders July last year, for crimes against humanity and amazingly on gender persecution. And actually in that arrest warrant, you all know that that was the first time that it formally recognized LGBTIQ people as victims of crimes against humanity in the Afghanistan context. Internationally, that was a big moment. In October last year, you saw the Human Rights Council establishing the independent investigative mechanism for Afghanistan. Of course, what power is it going to have? But at least it is trying to gather evidence. Thankfully, it was adopted unanimously, and it is there to preserve evidence of all the crimes that are being committed right now so that in the future, it will be able to have case files for prosecution. I think it's a really important moment, and Basira, I can see this research being an important part of recording what has happened. Of course, earlier this year, we saw the new criminal code coming out from the Taliban, signed, and now it's put into Pashto, I believe. Well, it was in Pashto and it's been translated. What we understand from it, and maybe you'll be saying more on this, Basira, is that we see that it has imprisonment and a discretionary death sentences for same-sex relations. And it conflates again Bacha Bazi and LGBTQ IQ people directly in this criminal code. And I think that's something of deep concern for us. And it targets both the dancers and their audiences alike, but also with the class system punishment structure in the criminal code. From what I understand, the audience is likely to get off with a much lighter sentence than actually the dancers will. So we do have a lot of opportunities. There's a potential growing accountability architecture out there, which can actually help LGBTIQ people. But of course, we're working within a system where, Kabul is not wanting to engage internationally. UNAMA has its monitoring mandate. And of course, it has been impossible for women now to even talk with UNAMA. Many issues that they have not wanted to touch on anything which mentions LGBTIQ. And even when CSOs have said we have information from LGBTIQ, that information has been invisibilized in the reports of UNAMA. So I'm nearly at the end here. Let me come back to where I began, to Basira and to this research. I honestly think that the connection of your kind of local stuff, like the testimony of that transgender survivor at a private party in Kabul, and the way that that's linked with an ICC arrest warrant that's issued like thousands of miles away in The Hague, it's not an obvious connection, but I think you're the kind of person who's able to make that connection. And it helps us to, it kind of requires people who understand the New York United Nations world, and at the same time also to be trusted by the survivors of this human rights crime that's being committed. So I think the thing that we as organizations can do is to keep investing, if possible. We'd lost all our funding last year, but in fellowships, in research grants, in capacity building that supports Afghan LGBTIQ organizations to do this documentation, to tell the stories, and to get these crucially into forums when then decisions are made, whether it's in New York at the Security Council, at Geneva, in The Hague, and many other places. So we are in a period of genuine danger for human rights. Funding's cut, as I said, language is being stripped. The ICC is now being sanctioned by the United States. So it is tempting to retreat, but I think all of us agree that we do not retreat in moments like this. Actually, this is the moment that we need to be clear, not despite the political difficulty, but actually because of it. All of the attacks against us are moments that we need to step up to. We've often been accused as a movement of doing the things that we did not do, or being made to carry the shame of other people's violence, whether it's the AIDS crisis or what we're seeing now with trans rights. So I think certainly the deep personal example of LGBTIQ people and victims of Bacha Bazi in Afghanistan is therefore not a side issue, not a niche issue. It's actually a global issue because it names specific crimes against humanities. It's documented, it's ongoing. And so whatever we can do at Outright to kind of support in the ways that we can, both through bringing this to diplomats here in New York City or in Geneva, trying to place language into resolutions when we can and when it's not going to get pushed back on, we will do that. Basira, you've given us the evidence. I'm very grateful to you. I'm grateful to those who've tolerated me talking for 20 minutes here. And I will stop with this and hand over to you, Basira. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andre, for very detailed information regarding the urgency of international or global solidarity for all communities around the world by focusing the intersectional abuses, violences that Afghanistan or South African or Caribbean or Asian, anyone, for being themselves, for having unique gender identity and sexual orientation who suffer. So it's the need, how this need is urgent, and at the same time, how this attention and supports millions to every individuals. Thank you so much for sharing all. And of course, your concerns, your supports mean a lot to us, and it really helped us a lot. So I am personally one of those who got this courageous from LGBTQ Connect of Outright International, and later on the Fellowship of UN Rights and Religion. So yeah, thank you very much. And this stage, I will go ahead with sharing my screen about about my research details with Rainbow Afghanistan, financial support of International Outright International, and Minot University, where I did this research as a thesis for that. I hope you have my screen. My research title was Bacha Bazi Culture and LGBT plus in Afghanistan, Impacts and Coping Mechanisms. First of all, I would like to give you some information regarding the background of Bacha Bazi in Afghanistan. Bacha Bazi is human exploitation, especially exploitation of kids, minors, by adults for a sexual pleasure. And it's forbidden at the same time against the human culture or tradition which is going on in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, so it's completely, I would like to clarify that it's completely different from homosexuality or any relationship between same sex. It's an exploitation. It's a behavior against human. It's an abuse and exploitation toward kids and minors. Secondly, I would like to go ahead with a little bit like very general information, but of course you are very welcome to go toward the details in my research regarding the experience of LGBTQ people who are under researched. Why? Because in each field of Afghanistan LGBT plus experiences, challenge, their life needs, there is huge research gap. There is huge documentation, lack of documentation. Next, this research explores lived experience, perceptions, and coping mechanisms and impacts of that on Afghanistan LGBTQ plus. Regarding the lived experiences of LGBT plus community, usually from the data that we gathered through the interviews with Afghanistan LGBT people, either who are based in Germany, in Ireland, in France, in US, most of they share that LGBT plus community are like can be the victim or the of the Bacha Bazi. So either they have been the head of organizations or personally they were the victims or survivors of the Bacha Bazi. They shared as usually Bacha Bazi targets the most vulnerable people in the society, especially children, minors, transgender individuals, and in some cases, even children, minors, are handed by their parents, by their guardians, to abusers for financial support that their family needs due to the poverty, or they are not able to provide to their kids, and at the same time they suffer from the poverty, so they let their kids to live with someone else's family. At the end, it will end up to the Bacha Bazi, or exploitation of their kids and minors. Even in some cases, those adults who get the children from their parents with the consent of their parents took those young kids or minors to parties to dance, and this norm is kind of like silently going on. Parents don't share about that, and kids or minors never talk about their experiences due to several factors. For example, fear from that person who is the bachabas or who is the abuser, and that abuser usually have high privilege from economic perspective, from social dignity power, like social reputation power. So they are well respected people among people, among the society. So they are silent. They never tell people like how they have been abused by that bachabas or that person who is taking care of the kid or the minor, the survivor of bachabazi. And in LGBT plus people experiences explicitly, some of our clients shared their lived experience that they have been in intimacy relationship with some friends or some trusted partners, but it ended up to bachabazi. How? Because those people, like their partners, they took the videos, or they record their intimate relationship situation, or they have the photos of that transgender or LGBT person, and then if they break up or if they don't want to continue that abusive partnership or abusive relationship, they end up to the blackmailing them. Like they will tell them, you should come and dance to a specific party. Otherwise, we will share these photos, their videos to your parents, to your friends, or we will share that on social media. And that person will end up to the abusive, exploitative environment of Bachabazi, dancing in a male-dominated party. And in some cases, some of our participants in this research shared their lived experience that they have been kidnapped as a teenage because they were looking good, and it triggered some of bachabas or exploiting adults to kidnap them and abuse them, or through the manipulation. Some of our clients, especially transgender clients, shared their lived experience that they have been manipulated, or they know some of LGBT people, especially transgenders, who have been manipulated through abusive or through bachabas people by promising them motorbikes, by promising them other incentives, financial incentives. And later on, it ended up to very horrible outcomes, like becoming addicted or becoming abused through the violence, and of course, ending up in exploitative environments like male-dominated parties, bachabazi parties. And in some other cases, our participants in this research shared that in some cases, some of relatives or family members they trust to trust some extended relatives, and they let their child or their minor kid be with them and learn something, especially like from suburb areas. They want to send their child to the cities to the close, trustworthy, extended family members, but it end up to exploitation through the Bacha Bazi, and their children or their kids never share those experiences because in Afghanistan there is very, very limited awareness among families, among parents to give the children or minors uh, and welcome their feelings, to listen to them, not to let them to end up in an exploitative environment. There were some findings as well into this research that I would go ahead with that generally, but I highly recommend you please read our full research for more detailed information. Internationally and nationally inside Afghanistan, there is a misconception going on, and there is a mis-social understanding is going on regarding Bacha Bazi tradition and Afghanistan LGBT plus community identities. In a couple of my interviews, my client mentioned like some of the journalists from international media, when I interview them as a Afghan gay, their question will be like, what, like, how do you relate the Bachabazi situation? Or like they think Bachabazi is like Afghanistan homosexual people, but no, it's not. It's completely wrong, and it's very hard to tell them in each interview separately, like Bachabazi is an exploitative culture or tradition, and LGBT people have their own unique identity as their as who they are, not they are not related to this tradition. And he found that like, or she found that very difficult to keep telling every media about this distinction. Likewise, one of our participants in this research mentioned that when I go to a barber shop in like UK in Europe, usually I I I will be welcomed as a Bacha Baz. Even they call me Bacha Baz. And I told them, no, I am an Afghan queer. I am Afghan LGBTQ plus individual. I am not Bacha Baz or Bacha Bevish. I am myself. So you cannot relate this exploitative tradition to my identity. But it's very hard to say, even in overseas like Western countries, this misconception is going on. When we go back to Afghanistan, internal situation, misconceptions, unfortunately, there is not any room for spreading awareness about the identity of LGBT plus community. At the same time, there is not any room to talk about the Bachabazi, like how horrible is this exploitative tradition. First of all, they will avoid, and secondly, if you start talking about that, they will assume you are part of Bachabazi, like you might be someone who have been abused by Bachabazi, and this stereotype give that fear to the advocates, to the activists who want to open this room for discussion. about this topic, like, oh, I cannot talk about or I cannot open this discussion because I might be misunderstood, and people around, instead of thinking about my questions or my awareness piece, they will start judging me like I am a Bacha Baz or Bacha Berish, or I am someone who is related to the Bacha Bazi culture. In another hand, there is the fear of openly talking about the Bachabazi in Afghanistan is that most of Bachabas, or those who exploit young kids or minors into through the Bachabazi exploitation behavior, they are very wealthy people. They are prestigious socially, from social perspective. They have reputation and people are afraid of them. People never dare to talk about what wrong things that person is doing, especially like if that person is exploiting kids and minors for personal sexual pleasure. So this, unfortunately, these misconceptions is like have traveled from inside Afghanistan among diaspora. In diaspora, all of these intersectional misconceptions are going on, from the fear of being judged as LGBTQ or judged as a Bachabazi victim, plus the fear of having like a connection with someone who is doing the Bachabazi exploitation behavior, and all of these are causing, like in diaspora, the diaspora community remains silent toward this misconception. I would like to go ahead with the family, society, and coping mechanisms that in this research we got some data, and we got some findings. First of all, many Afghanistan LGBTQ plus individuals lose family support in really early stage of their life, especially when they are supposed to experience that biological transfer from some biological characteristics among the teenagers that shows like either they are like growing as a man or as a woman, and when those characteristics are not matching to the expectation of the family, the family will start judging them, will start abusing them, either verbally, even through the violence, while not understanding nothing about the diverse identity. In that case, they lose their family support. Some of these losing family supports might lead the victim, LGBT plus community individuals, to run away from home or to be abandoned by their family, or ending up in exploitative environments like Bacha Bazi environments. However, as I mentioned, there is a big and specific distinction. One of our clients mentioned very clearly, like in every party that Bacha Bazi happens, usually those who dance on behalf of the Bacha Baz, they have their kata. Kata means the Bachabaz, the adult man with power, wealth, who abuses the kids minors for their sexual pleasure. And then they have those kids or minors to dance in the Bachabazi environment. And they don't let anyone else to abuse that minor or kid unless themselves. But transgenders in Afghanistan, because of not having any financial support or any income, they don't have any opportunity to work, so they end up dancing in that exploitative environment without any like Bachabas person or Bachabas support in that environment. And this sort of male-dominated parties are with chaos as well. There is not any protection, especially for those who dance. They might be killed if there some gunshot happens. They might be bitten if something happens because they drink, they smoke, and the party will end up with a chaotic situations. So in here there is another layer of distinction, like shows how LGBT people end up to that environment and what goes on with that environment. And you can go through the research for more details. And another uh, aspects of Bacha Bazi impact from social and family coping mechanisms perspective is that LGBT people don't receive education employment supports and most of the times because of the lack of family support they end up with no education because of the family poverty. They will face to multi-layer of abandonment from their family, like their family would say like with this height, like with this characteristic, how you can be a doctor or engineer, go to a restaurant and work there. Then they will lose not only that educational opportunity, but at the same time they don't have that feeling of support from the family toward them. In another hand, they might stop the education process because of the judgment, abuse by teachers, by classmates in the school framework. In employment opportunities, it goes the same cycle of judging them, abusing them sexually, physically, of course, verbally. So in that cases, sex work and dancing in Bacha Bazi exploitative environments would be one of the only options for queer community, especially for Afghanistan transgenders, to end up with this. When we come to the government support and employment general perspective in Afghanistan, there is not legal protection under both republic and current regime. The workplaces, as I mentioned, have that clear discrimination and exclusions, whereas the laws and regulations doesn't accept the diverse identity, doesn't support the equal opportunity for everyone. Of course, this systematic inequality, systematic exclusion impacts on all aspects of the society, like workplace discrimination and exclusions at workplace, abuse, violence toward queer community in workplaces. And one thing I would like to mention, it's very good day by day, the networks that improve resilience and survival for Afghanistan queer community through our amazing supporters, global supporters, like Outright International or any other organizations who are supporting Afghanistan queer community. It's increasing and it is giving more opportunity to empower them at the same time advocate and raise the amplify the voice of Afghanistan queer community for a positive change around the globe among diaspora at the same time for Afghanistan LGBT people inside Afghanistan. At the end, I would like to conclude that Afghanistan queer community or LGBTQ plus people face to intersectional exclusions and violence. Poverty, stigma, and lack of legal protections increases this vulnerability. And we need to have this courage to stand up against this exploitative tradition of Bacha Bazi, and also at the same time to raise the voice of diversity, the respect of diversity, like LGBTQ people, and not linking any exploitative behavior or exploitative traditions to gender identity, like queer community identity. And at the end, this great awareness, great protections, great supports cannot come only from one piece of support or one piece of advocacy. It really needs that sustainable, at the same time, considering the urgency of that, needs that long term systematic supports, not only. To end, like to complete this obligation through the research in one document, but to have it sustainable through the action to empower them through amplifying their voice through awareness. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. I would like to hear more if there be any question from our fellow friends in this launch. Thank you.
I have just a quick question for you, Basila, if that's okay.
Please.
We all know that the Taliban are against homosexuality, and those who belong to the LGBTQ community, they face, severe persecution and discrimination under the Taliban regime. But as you mentioned, Bacha Bazi is not considered, as severe or as heinous act as should be by the Taliban, because they are somehow also, involved in this obnoxious, behavior. So what do you think is what measures should be taken to end this phenomenon, this despicable phenomenon? We know that it is not feasible under the Taliban regime, but let's imagine a government other than the Taliban, a democratic, say, government, even like. Before the Taliban regime, we know that Afghanistan is a signatory to the Child Rights Convention, but even before the Taliban regime, those minors who are the victims of Bacha Bazi, they were not, they were not protected and supported under the convention. The convention of the rights of the child. They were not protected and supported even before the Taliban regime. So what do you suggest? What do you recommend? What measures, to be taken to end this obnoxious phenomenon, like forever? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mahba John. Yes, we had there is I think a couple of findings at the same time. A couple of our library research issue discussions are available in this research regarding the Taliban involvement in child abuse, teenagers abuse, especially some of scandals that went viral on social media, that how the Taliban were abusing their teenage bodyguards and keeping young teenagers as their bodyguards, and at the same time, like how it shows that exploitation, Bacha Bazi exploitation among the Taliban leaders going on, and at the same time they are denying regarding to talk about this openly, like what are the distinctions between the exploitation and respected or mutual understanding or mutual consent relationship. They are never ready to talk about that, and yeah, this have been also discussed in this research for going ahead, how to come up with a solution or how to stand up against what is going on among the Taliban leaders and their abuse or exploitation. I believe our documentation will be first stage of standing to the with truth and supporting the truth, what is going on. At the same time, supporting most importantly human right of everyone and stopping this chain of exploitation. And our voices, our activism matters. And through the academic research, through the organizational research, the recommendations that we provide to international allies, at the same time to Afghanistan, for Afghanistan advocates, for Afghanistan organizations and Afghanistan legal experts, how much we need these important topics to bring up and go ahead with a stronger voice, to have policies, to have laws, regulations that supports human rights of every individual and stop this chain of exploitation. I believe this will be a solution. And also in this research, we have provided those recommendations for our global allies, regional allies, at the same time, inside Afghanistan, our legal experts and advocates. Thank you, Mahbajan. I hope I answered your question.
Oh no, you did. Thank you so much, Basirajan. I should thank you also for your research finding, for sharing the findings on your research. It was really informative. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. The research will be posted on our website shortly, and I will email to all of you, inshallah. We have got some comments. I will read them. Thank you very much, Robin. Robin said, that was excellent. Will you share your report with the group via PDF or link? Of course, I will share the PDF at the same time the link of our website publication of this research via the email, of course. I have got very good comment from Hafiz. Thank you very much, Hafiz. Hafiz is our Afghanistan Rainbow Path Network member. Thank you. Dear Basira, thank you so much for your detailed explanation and valuable insights. We truly appreciate your efforts in bringing attention to these sensitive issues in a responsible way. We at EHDDO are active as a national alliance across 5 provinces of Afghanistan, with partnership including UNDP, UN Women, the Asian Foundation, Handicap International, and the Swedish Committee. Within the Afghan sensitive cultural context, we support vulnerable people through a community-based humanitarian approach focused on protection, psychological support, safe referrals awareness, on child protection and economic empowerment through livelihoods, all under a strict do no harm principle. We would highly appreciate if you could consider lead role in further collaboration. Of course, I would be very glad Sure. Thank you very much, Hafiz. Thank you. Rahel Jones mentioned, thank you for sharing such a useful information and well-organized program. Thank you very much, Rahel Jones.
Hi, Basira. Would you mind if I ask a question as well?
Please, please.
Sure. So one of the things that we have been trying to do globally at the United Nations is to emphasize that LGBTIQ is not a Western identity, is not a Western concept, but actually this has deep cultural roots, has existed in all times and all places. And yet we also sit with this language of LGBTIQ. One of the things that different movements around the world, for example, in South Asia, there's been a work with the Hijra community to emphasize how diverse gender identity is part of a deep cultural tradition there. In the Pacific Islands, of course, we know Fa'afafini from Samoa and Leti from Tonga, etc. Also ways to say that like diverse genders and expressions have existed at all times, to a degree in Latin America as well. I wonder if sometimes there's been an over enthusiasm that people have seen. Oh, Bacha Bazi culture in Afghanistan. This is like the local cultural expression of sexuality. And I think your research really emphasizes how that is not true. This is a dangerous exploitative. So this is very clear. But my question is there a way for expressing diverse gender, diverse sexuality outside of a Bacha Bazi framing? Is there language? Is there historical experiences of consensual or diverse gender expressions which are free and liberated at all in Afghan history? And if that's, I'm just kind of interested because that's something which can be very powerful in the right setting. We would never use Bacha Bazi as an example of that, but if there are other ways to say this is actually what it can look like in the history of our country, that can be helpful.
Thank you very much. Of course, I would answer, but I would like to ask our friends if there is any question in the ground. I will take them as well, and then I will answer all together. Is there any question?
Add something here. It is not a question, actually. It is just a comment. Maybe it's a comment to, like, you know, when we are using the term Bacha Bazi, we should be a bit, you know, careful, because it is not the culture of Afghanistan. It like, we know that Afghanistan has you know, diverse ethnicities and cultures. So it is the culture of some, you know, tribes in Afghanistan. There are some provinces in Afghanistan that this culture is, I would say, prevalent or happening, but like, we cannot generalize it. We cannot deploy it to all the, you know, provinces of Afghanistan. So just I mean, you know, we should be a bit careful when we are using the term Bacha Bazi. It is an Afghan culture. No, it is not an Afghan culture. It is a culture, but between, you know, specific tribes and communities. For example, like, if I say, you know, the specifically Hazara community, I don't think this culture or this um, say Bacha Bazi is, you know, prevalent among them. So and there are also another, you know, some other tribes or ethnicities or communities that this culture is not, you know, happening amongst them. So we should be a bit careful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any question in the ground, please? If not, so I will go ahead with responding. First of all, thank you very much, Andre, for asking this very important question. Yes, unfortunately, this has been happening, and yeah, indeed, we have very wonderful story around the world. Like, how deep is being queer in our gene all around the world? Doesn't matter if it is Turkestan, Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, or anywhere. So, and this associating like being queer or rainbow community member is an exported value of identical value rather than being a natural identical value. So yeah, it's really hard, and I have mentioned in a couple of discussions in this research as well. I would like to answer by referring to a book by Schuler. I hope I am pronouncing correctly. Notes of a Journey in Russian Turkestan, Khoqand, Bukhara, and Khajand. It's like a very old book from late 80s that talk about that colorful sexual orientations among people, and because of not being any legal framework, likewise among heterosexuals, like old men or very adult men marry very young girls. Like in Afghanistan, we have many example of 85 years old, 75 years old marry to a very young girl, kid, like 8 years old, 9 years old. Why it's happening like among heterosexuals? Because there is not a regulation to regulate, like not let anyone who has more powerful, who has more power, abuse or exploit the weak person, like a very young girl, and use the opportunity of their family's poverty situation and so on. Likewise, among homosexuals, so some people goes ahead with this interpretation. Okay, yeah, heterosexuals are doing this, and Afghanistan homosexuals same. They are into same sex, but because there is not any regulation of explicit consent, regulation like laws and regulations that it mentions explicit consent, age like 18 plus, they must be 18 plus to go into any sexual relationship with someone like who is not in the same age category or age group. Because of that, there is one discussion. If there is not any rule, if there is not any protection for women, for men, for anyone, so of course those people have more wealth, more social reputation or power. They abuse anyone who is more weak from them for gaining what they look for, maybe the sexual desire as well. So they will abuse either they're heterosexual or either they're homosexual. One. And secondly, uh, I I cannot I cannot disclose all of that intimate relationships from the clients that I have been hearing. But in Afghanistan, of course, there has been a lot of colorful, intimate same-sex relationship. Shams Tabrizi and Maulana is the most famous, and I would like to say that with proud. We have Shams Tabrizi and Maulana love story, like how deep it was and how out of that boxes they imagined the love, uh, feelings to each other, even if they were same sex, but still in that time, like almost 1500 years ago, uh, yeah, like 13 years, 100 years ago, they came up with that feeling like love can exist between same sex, not heterosexuals. So we have these colorful examples among our poets or expert elites. So there were a lot of stories between people as well, but because there wasn't the opportunity of documentation, so of course they never been documented. They never came up to out like, yeah, there are a lot of people who have interest to same sex with respecting, not with exploitation, but with respect, the consent, the love, mutual love. I hope I answered your question, Andre. And thank you very much, Mahbuba John, for sharing your comment. Yes, absolutely. And I think we all mentioned regarding that there is a explicit distinction between Bacha Bazi and colorful identities of queer community or LGBT people. So yeah, thank you very much. If there is anything else, please, you're very welcome to open your mic.
Thank you, Basira. I actually did not know that Maulana came out as as you know, to be part of the LGBTQ community as well, and the relationship that he had with Shams. So that was interesting. That was good to know. Actually, well, I not sure. I never believed that this was also, you know, a part of Maulana. But good to know. Thank you so much. It was interesting at the same time as well. I know that he spent, you know, a lot of time, you know, confining himself with Shams because he gave up, you know, everything and just, you know, in order to spend time with Shams. But I never thought he came out as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to elaborate that they never said that they are like homosexuals in none of their writings explicitly. I have been a lot into Manawi Masnawi and other writing pieces of Maulana Saib, but from what they desired or from what they feel, what we read, what we get, we feel like, yeah, really, that love which is interpreted among people only between man and man is not the love that Maulana is seeking for or Maulana is talking for. It's beyond the boxes. This feeling is beyond the boxes, the social boxes that try to put us as hetero, like to be this E or B, specific rigid gender rules or gender norms. So that's beyond that. And yeah, and likewise, if we explore more the valuable writings of our history, we will find more examples like how colorful was their love. It wasn't rigid into men and women relationship, but something beyond that. Mm. I see we have like we are 30 minutes ahead from the plan, but still it was very good to have these valuable discussions. If there is not any questions, I will wrap up and we will see you all in our next sessions and next opportunities.
Thank you, Basira. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you very much. So yes, please. Oh, Andre.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day, night, evening.
And you too. Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.